Imagine a world where the most powerful AI doesn't speak English first. Imagine it was built not in Silicon Valley with its endless venture capital and mild winters, but in a city most Westerners have never heard of. Hangzhou, China. The year is 2025. A small team releases a model. Nothing special on the surface. Another chatbot. Another assistant. The world shrugs. Then the numbers come in. The cost to train it was less than $6 million. A rounding error, lunch money in San Francisco. OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, they burn billions. This team spent less than a Super Bowl ad. And the model is better, or just as good. It's free, it's open. It runs on gaming cards. In one day, the stock market loses $1 trillion. The most valuable companies on Earth watch their future evaporate in real time. How did this happen? How did a quiet hedge fund quant from rural China become the man who broke the world's most important industry? This is the story of DeepSeek, the beginning of a new era. Liang Wenfeng was born in 1985 in Zhanjiang, a coastal city in Guangdong province. His parents were teachers. The house was small. The expectations were high. He was not a prodigy. No garage, no dropping out of Harvard. Just a quiet kid with a remarkable ability to sit still and think longer than anyone else. He studied electronic engineering at Zhejiang University, then a master's in information and communication engineering, the kind of path that suggests order, discipline, a man who finishes what he starts. But Liang had a secret obsession: money. Not wealth for its own sake. Money as a puzzle. Money as a system of hidden patterns waiting to be decoded. In 2008, during the global financial crisis, everyone was running from the markets. Liang ran toward them. He gathered friends, classmates, anyone who could code and count. They built algorithms to trade stocks. Machines making bets while humans panicked. It worked spectacularly. By 2015, he co-founded High Flyer, a quantitative hedge fund. They didn't just use AI to trade, they became AI. The whole firm was a machine learning experiment in profit. The money poured in, billions under management. But here's the thing about Liang. He gets bored of solved problems. In 2021, he made a decision so strange it confused even his closest partners. He bought 10,000 NVIDIA A100 GPUs, the most advanced gaming and AI chips on Earth, $100 million worth. For a hedge fund, a finance company. People asked why. He gave vague answers about wanting to understand the limits of AI. His investors grew nervous. His colleagues whispered, "What was a quant doing stockpiling semiconductors like a nation-state preparing for war?" Liang knew something. He had seen what the others hadn't. The GPU cluster arrived. The electricity bills arrived faster. The noise and heat turned the office into a factory floor. But there was no product, no plan. Just a man running experiments in a building full of screaming fans. The United States had already drawn its battle lines. In October 2022, the Biden administration imposed sweeping export controls. The most advanced chips, the A100 and H100, were blocked from reaching China. Liang's pile of hardware was now a stranded asset. He couldn't buy more. His 10,000 chips were a hard ceiling, a dead end. The industry consensus was brutal and clear. China cannot compete in frontier AI without Western chips. The gap will grow. The race is over. Go home. Liang locked himself in with the team. They had a choice. Give up and return to trading stocks, the comfortable path. Or try to do the impossible. Build a world-class AI with the chips they had, while the West raced ahead with unlimited access to better ones. He chose the impossible. The entire artificial intelligence industry had agreed on a sacred law. Bigger is better. More data, more compute, more parameters, more power. Scaling laws were treated like gravity. To build the smartest model, you needed the biggest pile of chips, period. Liang looked at this consensus and said no. It wasn't arrogance, it was necessity. His chip supply was frozen. He couldn't win a spending war, so he would have to win a thinking war. The team at DeepSeek made a bet that sounded insane to everyone outside. They would build a model that was not the biggest but the most efficient. They would treat every byte of memory and every cycle of compute as sacred. They would optimize not for power, but for ingenuity. While Western labs built sprawling skyscrapers, DeepSeek would carve a cathedral inside a mountain. Same height, less material. The approach was radical. They used something called a mixture of experts architecture. Most models fire all their parameters for every single query, an enormous waste, like turning on every light in a city because someone wants to read a book. DeepSeek's model only activated the relevant parts, a fraction of the brain for any given task. They wrote custom low-level code to squeeze performance from the chips that NVIDIA's own tools couldn't reach. They engineered a training method that required far less communication between GPUs. The work was invisible. Years of quiet, no press releases, no demos, just a small team in Hangzhou reinventing AI from first principles. While the world laughed at the idea of Chinese innovation in a post-export control age. The lonely period where nothing seemed to happen, but everything was being prepared. Liang hired young, PhDs fresh out of China's top universities, not the established stars who had already absorbed the Western orthodoxy. He wanted minds that didn't know what was supposedly impossible. The atmosphere was intense, but not corporate. No suits, no titles, just whiteboards and noodle cups and the hum of 10,000 GPUs. They published their work openly. Every paper, every breakthrough. In a world of secrecy, DeepSeek handed out its secrets. This confused everyone. Why give away the advantage? Liang's answer was simple. We build a community. We attract talent. Secrecy is a short-term game. The team obsessed over a single metric. How much intelligence can you generate per dollar of electricity, per hour of chip time? While the West built monuments to excess, DeepSeek built a precision instrument. And quietly, month by month, the instrument got sharper. January 2025. DeepSeek releases a model called R1. It's competitive, impressive even. The tech community notices but does not panic. A good model from China. Fine, expected someday. Then May arrives. DeepSeek drops V2, an open-source model. The pricing is so aggressive, it triggers a price war across China's entire AI sector. Giants like ByteDance and Alibaba are forced to match, then undercut. The market realizes DeepSeek isn't just participating, it's dictating terms. The big blow doesn't land until winter. Late December 2025. The holidays. The West is asleep. DeepSeek releases V3. It trains for under $6 million. It takes 2 months on a cluster of 2,000 lower-end chips, and it matches or exceeds the performance of models that cost hundreds of millions, sometimes billions, to build. The code is open. The model weights are free. Anyone can download it. Anyone can run it. The ground shifts, but the true earthquake hits in January 2026. DeepSeek releases R1, a reasoning model. This is not just a chatbot. This is a model that thinks step by step, working through problems with a visible chain of thought. It competes directly with OpenAI's most advanced systems, and on many benchmarks, it wins. Wall Street wakes up to a nightmare. The numbers are staggering. NVIDIA loses nearly $600 billion in market value in a single day, the largest one-day loss in American stock market history. The assumption that AI requires infinite, expensive hardware collapses. The moat protecting Silicon Valley's trillion-dollar valuations is an illusion. The model rockets to the top of App Store charts. Millions download it. The servers crash from demand. A gold rush begins, but in reverse. Instead of racing to provide the picks and shovels, the industry races to understand how the picks and shovels just became obsolete. Mark Andreessen calls it AI's Sputnik moment. Satya Nadella invokes Jevons paradox, a coping mechanism wrapped in an economics lesson. Liang Wenfeng rarely gives interviews. He doesn't post victory threads, he just releases the code and starts working on the next thing. The empire is not secure, it may never be. The geopolitical vice tightens. The US government pushes for even more aggressive chip bans. The argument shifts. Open source is suddenly a national security threat. China's own regulators watch the frenzy with suspicion. A powerful, uncensored AI, built by a hedge fund, free for the world to use. How long before Beijing demands the keys? Competitors regroup. OpenAI and Google accelerate their own efficiency research. The advantage DeepSeek unlocked may be temporary, and the ethical questions loom. What does it mean to have a thinking machine, a reasoning machine, born from a country with a fundamentally different view of truth, censorship, and individual rights? The model is brilliant. Who controls the brilliance? Triumph is fragile. The ground underneath DeepSeek is still moving. Back to Hangzhou, the humming building, the team that never left. Lang Wenfeng once said something that stayed with his engineers. We didn't set out to beat the West. We set out to solve the puzzle. That puzzle, the puzzle of intelligence, is not a resource problem. It is an ingenuity problem. DeepSeek proved that in the open for the world to see. The most important breakthroughs often look like mistakes before they look inevitable. A hedge fund buying gaming chips, a team ignoring the scaling laws, a country cut off from hardware deciding to think its way out. And now we face the question that hangs in the air like smoke after a fireworks display. If the most advanced, cheapest, and most freely available AI on Earth came from a small team in China with limited resources, what else have we been wrong about? What other impossible things are waiting for someone who doesn't know they can't be done? Thanks for watching this deep dive into the DeepSeek story. I'm curious to hear your take. Do you see open source AI as a democratizing force or a dangerous Pandora's box? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read them. I respond. And if you want more stories about the hidden forces reshaping our world, subscribe and hit the bell. See you in the next one.